Hello guys, Might is back with another one, and today we'll be looking at for loops. Before we can get started, if you haven't already subscribed, please click on the subscription button below and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever I release a new video so we can continue learning together. And please engage with me, comment down below, like, share with your friends, and let's get learning. Let's go. So sometimes you want to repeat some logic multiple times in your code. And let's say, for example, that you wanted to print out hello Typescript multiple times onto your screen. So a less efficient way to do that would be to type console log hello Typescript however many times you want. This is the less efficient way, and this is going to be very problematic if we decide maybe we wanted to do it 100 times. Are we going to write 100 lines of the same thing onto our code? Obviously we don't want to do that. We are trying to be more efficient. That's why we're learning how to code. So in TypeScript there's actually multiple ways to do that. In this lesson we'll be looking at for loops. We'll look at the rest of the loops in the upcoming lessons, and just to name them here, those loops are the while loop, the do while loop, the for off loop, and the for in loop. So we will look at those in the upcoming videos. These loops are essentially the same, they just have some subtleties, like you can get to the same result using whichever one you want. So let's get started with our for loop. So to be able to iterate, let me just go back, and I'm just going to remove all but one. So to get started with our for loops, we are going to use the keyword for, which is that you can actually do that, and TypeScript actually fills that in for us, but I'm just gonna stop it right there and start it from the start. So you started off by having your parentheses here and your curly braces over here, which is where you're going to have your block of code there. So we have three things in our for loop. So the first one being your initialization, like the variable you're going to use in your loop to identify the different steps in your loop. Let's say you wanted to run this hello Typescript 5 times. Maybe you start your initialization from 1 and continue up to 5, and then, or you started from 2 and end at 6, or you start from 0 and end at 4, things like that. So to do that, we've learned about initializing our variables. So I'm just going to call it I, and I'm just going to initialize that to 0. So we like using I because it represents an index, which means a position in our logic, whatever we'll be looking at. So that's our initial variable. So, and then we end that with a semicolon. So we have initialized our I here, our index. That's the first part of our for loop, and then we have our second part, which is going to be the condition that we put on I, so that our loop runs until that condition is false. So now, if we want to run this loop 5 times or 7 times, whatever. So now we started from 0. So if I go I less than 5, so if we're starting from 0, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I gets to 5, when it will say 5 is not less than 5, and then our loop will stop, and then it will not continue further. But then we still have another thing to do. So we have another semicolon over there, and then now we have to change our I. So we have said I should be 0 there, and the condition that we have on I is that I should be less than 5. But I is not changing anyway, so we want to make changes to our I so that this can be false at one point, so that our loop does not continue running forever. So to do that, I'll show you something new here, which is the I plus plus. So this essentially means that this is the same as if I go I equals to I plus 1. So to understand what this is, what's happening here, we have I as 0. So this will start off and run for the first time when I is 0, and then it will come back the second time, and it will increment I. So it's saying take the previous value of I, which is 0, add 1 to it, and make I that new value. So it's saying I equals to I, the previous I, 0, plus 1. So now the new value of I would be 1, and so on. And so when it comes back the second time, I would be 1, and then you'd add on to 1, and you'd have 2. And then that's how you continue in your loop. So I'm just going to cut this out from there and paste this in there. So now let me compile the code and compile that, and then I'm going to run it. So now we have I being printed 5 times onto the screen. So if you want, you can go start from 1 and then have this here be less than or equals to. We'll have the same thing because it will start from 1, run 2, run 3, run 4, run 5. It will run 5 because we said less than or equals to, so that will be true when I is equals to 5. And then when I is 6, that's when it will stop. So I'm going to compile that again and print that onto the screen. So we have that. So to be able to see what's actually happening, I'm just going to add I onto the print statement and see what's happening to I. So I'm going to compile that again, and then I'm going to, so look at that. Now it's hello TypeScript 1, hello TypeScript 2, hello TypeScript 3, and that. So now I can actually go repeat, have it like we had it before, and see that we don't actually get to 5. We stop at 4. So now we started from 0 and then we ended up at 4, because 5 less than 5 is false, so that's when it stops. So I said, and then I can actually have this as I plus plus. Like I said, those two are the same. I'm going to, and then same thing. There's actually different ways you can do this thing. So you can choose to start I at 5 and then decrease the value of I. So let's look at that. Let's say I want to start at 5, and then I want to say I greater than 0, starting at 5. And instead of going up, because if I go up, I starts at 5, and this condition will always be true. I greater than 0 will always be true because we'll be incrementing I over here. But so that this thing completes, the loop completes, we can do I minus minus, which is the same as I equals to I minus 1. So now we can start it over there, compile, and run it. So now we started our loop from the top. We started from 5 and we ended up at 1. So you can do some fun things with this loop. Once we get through our TypeScript essentials, we'll start looking at doing more programming problems and solving some interesting problems and making our own apps, websites. So hopefully you get to that point with me, and let's continue learning. Let's go.